The first question anyone should ask before they write a book is, why am I writing this? What do I want to get personally, selfishly even, right? So before we even talk about the idea, what do you want to get out of this?
So a few different things. I want to work with amazing people. Like I actually want to put, I know that at Scribe, there's people there, or, I've talked to Charlie about being involved, and I think there'd be something interesting about putting together with other people and working on that project. I like the challenge. I want to try working on just one thing focused, and doing a really amazing job at that. Right? Like I think some of the things I've wanted, I'm like, I really want to go do this. So I have to go do this. And this is a little bit that others have suggested it. And I'm just trying to explore it this month to figure out, like, is this something I really want to invest in, and what do I want to get out of it?
Right. So that's what I'm asking. Like, what is it you want? Because if there isn't a deep, important why, you aren't making it through all the valleys that come writing a book.
It's kind of how I'm feeling. Where I don't think I have the why yet. And so it's
then
like,
don't do it.
Yeah. I feel like I'm like, oh, let's convince myself. And I'm like, I don't really want to go hard on that yet.
Yeah. You should sell yourself before you write a book, but it shouldn't be a hard sell. It should be an easy sell.
Okay. What are some of the common answers you hear from people?
All right. So to go through them, legacy is a huge one, which usually it takes people a while to admit to themselves that legacy is part of it, because like they don't want to admit. But like the reality is we are all fairly insignificant apes on a small little rock away from everything. And most of us aren't sure if anything we do in our lives matter. And a book is one of the ways that you can both prove that you existed, you can prove that what you did mattered to other people, and you can leave a legacy, right? And those things kind of all wrap together. It's a proof of life, a proof of existence, a proof of meaning, a proof of purpose. It's all of those things, right? And I'm not saying like everyone who writes a book has to have those, but most of the answers that people give reduce down. If you boil them down, that's what they boil down to. Right? That's in terms of legacy, right? Or in terms of deep emotional meaning. The other part that's related to this is sharing of themselves, right? Everyone wants to be seen and recognized and validated for what they've done. And a book is a great way to do that, right? To prove, I kind of said this before, but to pull it out as it's on its own, to prove that you have done things that matter to other people. Right. It's easy to build a business or be a coach or do all these sorts of things. But like a book is proof, indisputable proof. People that I don't know bought this and read it and left reviews, and their lives changed because of that. Right. That's a thing that the negative voices in your head can't argue against, or can't argue as well against. Right. So the kind of that's legacy and impact, which often go together, right? Those are kind of the bedrock emotional issues. Now, on top of that come all of the more surface rational issues, like I want to increase my authority in my field, or my visibility in my field, or I want to increase my credibility, my reputation, anything like that, right? Reputation, authority, expertise, credibility all usually lead to more business. Right? And you can define sales or business in a lot of different ways. Like if you're a coach or consultant, you've got the defining book on some subject. You're the go-to person. You sell more, etc. Right? You know all that. You can also define that whether it's like books that sell supplements, books that promote SaaS companies, books that whatever. Or if you're a professional writer, you can get into the game of selling copies of books, which is kind of the worst way to make money from books. As someone who sold millions of copies, I'm just telling you, it's awful. You don't want to go down that road. The best way to look at a book is a piece of marketing that you can get paid for to use, right? You're going to make a little bit of money on the market.
It's kind of interesting.
Which is like you don't make any money on paid ads. You make money from what paid ads get you, right? But a book gets you a bunch of stuff where you make the big money, and then also you get paid on the book too. So that's the kind of the ROI thing. And then it can lead to other things. The reputation increase can lead to speaking. It can lead to other opportunities. It can lead to raising your status. a book does, and raising your status always unlocks all kinds of not direct business opportunities, but indirect opportunities as well. And then the other big thing is that it's a hook for media, right? If you want to get on more podcasts or get more attention, et cetera, like someone like you is actually a really good example of this. Yeah, because you have a big company, you've gotten a lot of attention. Big people like Tim Ferriss have talked about you, but you don't have a thing to like a piece of creative output to hang your hat on the way that, like, let's take someone else who's on Ryan or on Tim's podcast all the time, like Ryan Holiday. Like Ryan's done nothing compared to you compared to building businesses or all of that impact. He just sits at home and writes his little books, which are cool, whatever, right? Like, no, I'm serious. Like,
I know. I struggle with this. This is what I struggle.
And he has, in a lot of people's eyes, he has more status than you do, even though if you were to actually line up your accomplishments, it's a joke that he'd be in the same conversation with you. You know, if we're only measuring people that way, which is not the only way to measure people.
I hear you.
But like, it's almost ridiculous the relative status that you two are in the same category of relative status, and he's done nothing but write books, and you've done everything except write a book, right? So think about that for a second, you know?
Yeah, I've struggled with that specifically over the years, right? I've struggled with how much do I want a public persona? How much do I want to be out here versus I've always respected more the makers. And to me, the maker is the Bezos, it's the Zuckerberg, it's the Gates, it's the people who've made the products or the businesses that the people benefit from. And the authors, I've only started respecting a little bit more, but and that's where I struggled because I look at Bezos, I'm like, he's never written a book. He doesn't run a podcast.
I'm with you. I'm someone who's very clearly both. Built an 8-figure company now that employs hundreds of people and sold millions. Like I'm straddling both fields very solidly. And I'm telling you, the maker field is way harder. The maker field is way more, it produces way more value. It's crazy because I have more prestige for the other field, but this field is way better in my opinion. But that being said, you don't have to pick one or the other. You can have both. I'm the perfect proof of it. And I went the opposite direction that you'd be going. It's way easier to go from maker to author. Way easier because now you're speaking from a position of authority. Hey, you want to learn subject X? I've done subject X 6 times. I'm going to teach you how. And with even half decent storytelling and a half decent team around you, you can produce very good books. And if you really put in the time and effort, you can produce great books. Whereas like if someone's just an author, they've got to become great at storytelling. They've got to become great at understanding all those aspects, which is why it was relatively easy for me to go from being an author only into business and have a lot of success quickly in a lot of different ways because I was such a good storyteller. Right? That's the avenue I keep trying to tell all my author friends to go is once you're a really established author, you have a set of skills that almost no one in business, none of the makers have. They don't know how to really tell stories, most of them. Like the ones that can tell stories are considered the gods. Musk, Jobs, all those people, they're not better makers than any number of other people. They're just better storytellers. Right? And so like that's the thing I try and convince them, but they can't hear me because their status is so tied up with being an author, writer, creative. They see being a maker as down status for them, which in certain circles it is. I think that's bullshit, but that's how they think.
2 things on that. I was thinking about the idea that just because you eat, you think you know what good food is, you'd be a good chef, right? And just because I read books, I think I'd be a good author. And
you know why you'd be a good author? Because you have things to say. Being a writer and being an author are very different things. I teach this as a specific thing in our course that we teach, which is free, by the way. Like the
where can people find it?
Course. Huh?
Where can people find it?
Just go to scribebookschool.com. It's all there. Okay. It's like a 5-day whatever. Like what people pay us thousands of dollars for, we have up for free. They pay for publishing and editing and service help, but anyway. So we have a whole thing about this. An author and writer are different identities. An author is someone who writes books. A professional writer is someone who gets paid exclusively on book sales. Like that is the thing that they do, right? All professional writers are also authors. Very few authors are professional writers. You would be an author, right? I'm both. Ryan Holiday's both. Tim Ferriss is both. Like the three of us, I'm not as much now, but the three of us early on defined as professional writers. This is how we get paid, right? And you don't get paid off of this. And so you're in a whole different category. But a lot of authors define their books the way that professional writers do. So they worry about, oh, I've got to open a vein on the keyboard and spend a year at this, and I've got to have beautiful sentences. That's all bullshit. Those are things that professional writers worry about, either because they think they help them sell books, or because they are status markers within the professional writer hierarchy. You're not in that hierarchy. You don't give a shit about them, right? But if you look at a book as a vehicle for you to leave a legacy, create impact, and then help your other businesses, then all you have to do is show up and teach what you know, which you're already great at because you do it in multiple other media.
Truthfully, I don't think my status is, let me just say it in the form of a comment. I get this comment about once a month on my YouTube or podcast or blog. They're always like, you should be more popular. And I feel that way. And it's not as an arrogance, but it's a belief that I believe the messages and the things that we learn at the company and the things that I share from what we're experiencing. There's nothing out there like it. And I do get a little disappointed at times where I'm like, this message should be bigger. And so I guess one part I've been wondering, is the book the best way for that? Or is there another medium for that that's even better?
There's two different things here. A book would absolutely be one of the best ways for you to raise your status and get your message further. More people would take you. There's no better way to get into media than to have a book. Like, dude, Oprah doesn't say, oh, my next guest has a new cat video on YouTube. She doesn't, dude. Like, maybe Ellen brings some people on, but those are only people with viral videos who make fools of themselves. The people they bring on as authorities and experts are people who wrote the book on the subject, always, right? So you want media to take you seriously, you need to write a book on what you're talking about. But that's not the only reason you're not as big as you are, as you should be. Because I agree with the comment. You are not as big as you should be. I would say if we're dividing the percentages, a book is worth 30 or 40% of that. But the majority, I'm not sure how much of the majority is you still, and I know you pretty well, you still either don't believe or are unwilling to be as big as you could be. You're not willing to step into your destiny shoes and walk in them. That's just the reality. And because you're getting, like, until you address that, which literally, it's so funny, man. When I started this company 5 years ago, we have barely changed how we make books, how we write books. I knew 90% of what I know now on how to write books. What I didn't know was how to teach people how to write books, which I've gotten way better at, really good at, and how to work people through their underlying fears and emotional issues writing. I had to do all that myself when I wrote my first one and my second and third to a different degree. But that was like a decade ago, and it was so long ago I've forgotten what it's like, But most people are so afraid. The problem with writing a book is not information; it's always fear, because writing a book it changes their identity and it raises their status, and for most people, that's terrifying.
Yeah, I thought I'm afraid.
You are. Which that's the first step to getting past it, is admitting that that's actually a thing.
I am. I'm curious how you recommend I explore that fear. Like, on one hand, I'm reading this book. Have you ever heard the book Surrender Experiment? Yeah, shut up, dude. Doc. Have you heard of it?
Of course, man. So I hated The Untethered Soul. I didn't hate it. That's too strong. But that book sold millions of copies. I'm like, this book is garbage.
So many books sell many copies.
And I'm being extreme, but like I couldn't stand that book, and I couldn't understand why people liked it. And then someone who was smart said, "No, dude, you need to go read his memoir where he talks about the same stuff." but in a memoir form, Surrender Experiment. And I read that and I'm like, oh, I'll tell you, hold on a minute. Hold on. This is the book you need to read next. I read this after Surrender Experiment. Changed my life. It's called Letting Go by David Hawkins. It's his best book. He's a pretty famous guy in the woo-woo spiritual space, but he's really good. You will really like it. That after Surrender Experiment, that's actually how I completely changed the game with psychedelic therapy, how I went from kind of fighting the medicine to writing the medicine, those two books. But get back to your point. So yes, I read the book. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's been, and I'm reflecting on that with writing my own journey and sharing, being the voice of the experiences that I've gone through. And especially recently, what's been so powerful for me is all these people have started saying, and I've started hearing it. They've been saying it. I've never heard that what I've been sharing actually works.
Yeah. That's very important. You notice the difference. They've been saying it for years. You finally started hearing it.
Yeah.
And because you didn't believe it deep down.
I did not. 100%. And I asked Charlie this, actually. It was really interesting. I talked to Charlie last week and I loved it. I was like, fuck, he's got some wisdom in him. I love that guy. And he said, you know why Tim and Ramit are more popular than you? I was like, why? Can you guess why?
Because they believe they should be.
Probably that. I think that's definitely a big part of it. I've been around them since the beginning, before they were
it's not relative to you. It's not that they think they should be bigger than you. They just think they should be at the level they're at. And so they're there. And you don't.
I think there's that is a huge piece. Another piece that Charlie highlighted is their material has gotten more results for people than mine has. Not as a comparison, but he's like, look, their stuff has it touched and helped more people. And that's all you have to do to get big, as well as believe that you should be big.
I wonder if theirs has touched and reached more people. Again, not discounting them at all, not putting them down. I'm just saying relative to you, if they're more, you guys are in the same category, right? Like if Tim might have an extra 0 on his numbers than you and Ramit, but there's no way Ramit has touched more lives and helped more people than you have if you look at all the stuff you guys have done in conjunction. Because the way Ramit markets versus the way you market, I promise you've hit at least as many people as he has.
There's something interesting, and I don't maybe know the answer at this moment, but it's like, what is holding me back from believing? And there's another question: is do I really want that? Right? But is that just me holding myself back from saying, Ramit believes he should be big, and he became big, and then I'm wondering, like, do I really want that? And you can't convince me. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I can't answer that question for you.
I know you can't,
right? But I will tell you, I struggled with this recently, I'm a big believer that. How do I phrase this? We're either gifted or whatever a certain set of skills and abilities, and that our purpose in life is to maximize part of our purpose. I mean, aside from family and connection and love, our work purpose, our creation purpose is to maximize those skills and abilities to the benefit of the most people possible, while still respecting ourselves, making time for our loved ones and our family. And of course, like the two things have to be in balance. They're not separate things, right? I don't believe in sacrificing one to the other. Right? Like Elon Musk has made that decision. He's going to sacrifice his family and his children for what he's working on. He can make whatever decision he wants. I'm not going to do that. But my point is, it hit home for me during the pandemic that I've been playing small. I've been playing small for a long time, and which is funny. Like people are looking at me like, "What the fuck? You're playing small now? Like, what the fuck is playing big for you?" And I'm like, "Well, I can play a lot bigger." I don't mean that. It's not a comment on anyone else.
Yeah.
It's nothing. It's just I know I am not maximizing myself and my abilities. And when I realized that, man, it was a hard turd to swallow, man. It was really hard for two reasons. One, because it means I've been betraying myself for years. By not being everything I could be. And two, it meant that I then had to step in. I had to fill my shoes. I had to fill my destiny. I had to step into those shoes and walk in them. and I had been afraid to. And so like, so I'd admit I was afraid to fill my destiny, and I had to admit that I had held myself back and played small. And I think that's why I convinced myself I wasn't, and that's why I'd done it, because I didn't want to face either of those truths.
How did you recognize that, and what does that mean to you?
So the reason I recognized it is because, so, when the pandemic hit, our March sales call, whatever sheet was booked, right? We were projecting like, I don't know, 1.12 to 1.5, 1.2 to 1.5 million in revenue in March. Our call list went clear. And like our lead pipeline went from full to zero in a week. And so we had an existential crisis on our hands for this company, right? And don't get me wrong, JT had set up our company really well. We had cash in the bank. We had a line of credit. We were going to be like, we weren't just shutting down immediately. We were really healthy as a company. We were about to take a profit share, so we had plenty of money. But I mean, like, what the fuck were we going to do? And so, because remember, early March, mid-March, no one knew how this was going to play out. And so I had to face the question, what was I not doing? Right? And so my company was on death ground, and I had to really ask myself the hard questions. And I realized, what I'm not doing is I am not standing in front of the world doing the thing that I know I can do just with this company, which is I wrote the best fucking book ever written on how to write a nonfiction book. I can teach this to the world for free. We already had a plan to kind of do this called Scribe Book School. And like, we were kind of rolling it out slow. And I was interfering with it a lot because unconsciously, because if we did it, it means I would have to get back on stage. And my first run at being on stage, though very successful in a lot of ways, was very painful for me in a lot of ways. And I made a lot of fucking mistakes, and I took a lot of shots and a lot of shit. And it's painful for me to say it because it's true. I didn't want to get back on stage. And even though this is like a small thing, it was still really getting back on stage. But when the work and the lives of, or the careers of 51 full-time and 170 freelance are on the line, there's no more time for my bullshit, right? I got to do what I have to do. And so we did Scribe Book School, and it blew up. We did 2 live training iterations, 6 weeks apart. They did 400,000 in revenue. We created a new product line that's going through the roof. And like, I can't tell you all the emails, people, thank you so much. And because we're giving like a course that most marketers would charge anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 for, we give the information away for free. And then we charge for like coaching services, time, calls, all that stuff, right? But the info is free. And so like, it's been amazing, right? But then like, and it's funny, man, I came out of this and I just did a medicine session, which I haven't done in a long time. I've done one for like 6 months. And it was like, it was mushrooms, and the mushrooms were like, all right, we're proud of you. You finally, whatever, took the next step, but now we're going to show you where you're really supposed to go. And it kind of showed me a preview, and I was like, oh, fuck. This is big. This is really big. And I was like, all right, well, give me a little time. Like, let me ease into this. Like, yeah, it's fine. You got a little while. But like, yeah, dude, it's just, I don't know how much of a believer you are in karma and in the Buddhist understanding of souls. I'm not sure I am either, but I'll tell you what they think. Karma's not just negative. It's that their belief is that our soul has a certain number of iterations to go through lives, and that either you get better or you get worse. And that once you transcend a certain plane, whatever enlightenment, then you move to a different, I don't know, something else. But the idea is, in every life you have missions, you have things that you have to accomplish, issues to work through, things to accomplish. And if you don't do the things you can do, the Buddhists say you just got to come back and do it again, And I don't know if that's true or not, but it feels right to me. It feels like I was given a big set of tasks, and if I don't step up and handle them, then I both betray myself, I fail the people around me, and then I got to come back and do it again anyway.
What was the preview you saw?
I'm not going to tell you. I've learned not to, maybe in a few years, in a private, you, me, and my wife, and whoever will do it, I'll tell you then. But
Okay.
it's not, now's not the time. It has nothing to do with books or you.
I don't think you fantasize about me too often anymore.
I do talk about you in book school. I talk about how I learned my family was Jewish, and one of my friend Noah Kagan threw a bar mitzvah for me. I swear to God, I do.
That was really fun. That was really fun. I think I'm back being Noah, which has been it's been an interesting space in the past few months. I've really felt more like myself than ever before. Like I don't even remember the last time, and I'm really learning a lot about myself and growing, which that's what I think the book is a part of that growth period. You know, I think one of the things that we said is like, you should be big. And I think it's more, there's also that desire to be big. And I think I've probably held.
Hold on. I don't mean should like as a moralistic judgment. I don't mean should like, here's what I think you should do. Like you should wear better clothes. No. When I say should, that's a good, you have the skills and the abilities and the drive to reach and impact way more people. And you are not maximizing your potential. It's up to you whether you decide you want to or not. I am a believer that part of our job, we are energetic beings having a physical experience, and part of our job here is to work through past issues and to maximize our positive impact on others. That's what I mean when I say should, which it's a good, I need to be more precise with my language with that.
No, I get it. I mean, it's something that, I talk about it with the word success lately. People are like, you're successful to others. And that's just what they're saying about the other person, not about themselves.
Right.
And so I'm always careful about that. Two things with what we're talking about. How do you think I should just explore this?
So again, the question, you must sell yourself before you start. You especially should be all in. You want to be all in before you start. So really think about what you want to get out of a book, but think about in the context of who do you want to be and what do you want to get out of life? A book is only a thing that will help you become who you want to be and get the most, or get the things you want out of life. That's it. It's just a vehicle.
Just taking notes. One thing that we talked about that I was trying to reflect on is, why does a book matter? Like, why does this pieces of paper with words that have been rearranged from different people give so much status?
So again, I hate to sound like a Buddhist, but like in the larger sense, nothing matters, right? So like keeping that in mind, because a book is, so let me explain why it has high status in our specific context. It is proof of work, right? It is hard to write a book. You can buy most credentials. You can buy your way into Harvard. I know people who did. You cannot buy your way into a well-written book. Yes, you can hire great ghostwriters. Absolutely. You can even hire ghostwriters and researchers and whatever, and you can have nothing to do with the book. But at the end of the day, you absolutely know. You might get the praise and the plaudits and the everything from the book, but that book wasn't yours. It wasn't an expression of you and your soul, right? And so you pay the price for that, even if it's just internal. But to be able to write a great book that impacts a lot of people, you have to earn those experiences. You have to be able to relay information and experiences to people in a way that benefits them. It is the definition of value creation. In the same way that a company creates value, books create value. Books do it in a way of helping people think differently or know more things or understand things. Companies more do the work for them, in a sense. Products and stuff do the work for them, but they're not fundamentally different. And so what's cool about a book, though, is that it has a permanence that a company doesn't, and it has the reason it has status is because it forces you to clearly articulate and display who you are. Sort of like what's so cool, why people love MMA is because it's truth, right? There's no lying in fighting. It's just meat on meat. Books are not as honest as MMA, but you and I both know a lot of really famous, really well-known people who bullshitted in their books, and they sold a lot of copies the first week because they had status and they bought whatever, blah, 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 but no one talks about their books anymore. They're gone. But we also know a lot of people who wrote great books that they put their souls into that helped a lot of people, and people talk about those books over and over and over. It's no different than a statue in a square or your name on a building, except it continues to give benefit to people forever if the book's that good.
Where my mind goes, which is funny, it's honestly, I would say the bullshit questions. Should I self-publish or publish? Do I do this? And
it's a distraction, Noah.
No. The real question is, do I want to do this or not? Because
that's the only question.
That's the only one. Because I was thinking about it, because I was like, I should ask about this. And what really mattered is, if I want it, I'll do whatever it takes to get it.
Yes.
And so I just need to spend more time being clear.
Once you decide that this is a thing you want to do, you'll become a demon, you'll blow through it, and then you'll probably write 10 more.
Yeah, I think I want to I need to explore maybe mushrooms or MDMA or coaching or just even solitude, which I'm doing for the next few weeks. This is something I want to go all in more, about myself. And the book is just a piece of that.
Who do you want to be? How do you want to help? What do you want to create? A book's just a vehicle to answer those questions.